Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and going off on that long rant in the end of the last segment about how unions are democracies in the workplace. They exist by virtue of a majority vote of workers, even saying, yes, we want a union. Unions themselves are democracies. Their leadership is elected by their members. Their decisions are made by their members in democratic processes and all that sort of thing. Liz Schuler is back with us, the Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL CIO, aflcio.org. Do we hear each other now, Liz?
Hi, Tom.
Hi, it's working.
Yes.
It's magic. It's magic.
Technology, we love it.
Yeah, indeed. So, I think that what we were talking about at that time was the state of labor. I'm curious your thoughts on the Romney-Ryan view of organized labor.
Well, we couldn't have two more stark views of these candidates and their positions on working families and particularly unions. And we've seen what the Republicans did last week in Florida and the agenda they outlined, and I saw a lot of union bashing. And this week, it's been a shot in the arm to see the conversation shift to the needs of the middle class and working families, and what do we need to do to rebuild this country?
Yeah. I mean, I regularly defy Republicans, libertarians, right-wingers of all varieties to show me any country in the history of the world that had a strong middle class that didn't get there by virtue of organized labor and government stepping in and saying we're going to defend the rights of organized labor.
Absolutely.
I just don't think that there's one that exists. And in fact, most European countries, you're looking at unionization rates of 70 to 90%. In Germany, the federal government requires any company with over 1,000 employees to have half their board of directors made up of members of organized labor from that company.
It's a very different world.
It is a different world. And what it does is it creates a stable, solid, secure, strong middle class. How is it that people in America don't get it? How have we gone from understanding in the 1930s, when the great Flint sit-down strike was happening and things like that, understanding in the late 1900s and through the early 1910s, 20s, 30s, the importance of organized labor, the critical nature of organized labor, to being able to listen to this Republican rhetoric and so many people swallowing this stuff. Is it because we don't have child labor in this country anymore? Is it because we don't have literally police shooting at people as they try to organize themselves? I mean, we had a pretty rough history back there in the first part of the 20th century.
No, you're absolutely right, and you outlined it beautifully. And if you look at the last 30 years and the decline in the middle class, and you overlay that downward trend with the trend line for unions and their decline, they literally mirror each other. So as the middle class has shrunk, the union density has gone down, and the two are very much related.
And meanwhile, the top 1% goes up because they take what's left over.
Absolutely. So your question was right on point. Why is that? Why is it that people in this country don't see the connection? And that's really our job. As the union movement has shrunk, I think the relationship people have to unions has become more distant. There isn't, the direct relationship that people had a father or cousin or an aunt in a union, and everybody knew the value of coming together collectively and improving your working conditions. And so that's our charge. Our charge is now to work with the community and actually show people that whether you're in a union or not, coming together collectively for a strong voice, that's how you better your lot. Right. And so we have a job ahead of us, and that's what we're doing. Well,
and I know the AFL CIO even has a separate program for Americans who are not union members who would like to participate. Tell us about that.
It's called Working America, and it is the ability for people who are frustrated with the way things are going in this economy and feel that they don't have a voice and that they're kind of on their own, to come together in a community of like-minded people along with the labor movement to get the message out there to these politicians especially that working family issues can't be ignored. And I think there's power in that. We have almost 3 million members in Working America that, again, share the same concerns and priorities, and we're mobilizing, and this is going to be what's going to help us win this election.
Right. Now, one of the reasons why Republicans have historically been hostile to unions is that unions have been a source of money and shoe leather for the Democratic Party. I don't know where to go with that, other than to point it out and ask, shouldn't this tell Americans something that, organized labor is with the Democrats and vice versa, and the Republicans are opposed to them? I mean, isn't there an obvious message just out of that fact?
There is an innate connection in that we look at the issues and where the candidates stand on health care and retirement security and fair pay and women's rights, and all of these issues are important to all working Americans. Mm-hmm. And so regardless of party, we look at the issues, and it just so happens that Democrats care about and have the same values as the union movement and working Americans. So I think it's very obvious. There is no, as I said, clearer a picture than what we've been seeing this week as opposed to last week in the difference in agendas and who's fighting for the middle class and who's fighting for the 1%. It's very stark.
Yeah, Romney Ryan, we are the rich guys.
Right.
It is really quite extraordinary. The largest unionized employer in the United States, the largest employer in the United States is non-unionized. That's Walmart. The second largest employer in the United States is unionized. It's the U.S. Postal Service. And 5 years ago or so, the Republicans put a poison pill into legislation about the post office, requiring them to start funding the health benefits of their retirees 75 years from now. And because the Postal Service was doing so well, they were so profitable, they were actually talking about taking 70% of their fleet and converting them to solar-powered vehicles and electric vehicles and things. And the Republicans were like, "We can't have this. We've got to destroy." And now I realize that I don't think these are AFL CIO workers. I'm pretty sure they're AFSCME workers, aren't they?
Postal workers.
The postal workers, yeah. What union is that?
APWU, letter carriers, rural letter carriers. There's a number of postal unions that actually work very cooperatively and have been part of the solution, frankly, in finding ways to make the business of our postal service run more efficiently.
Right.
So they've been a real asset.
Well, and I'm curious, what's the AFL CIO doing? This is the largest unionized employer in the country. Are you participating in the fight to help protect the post office?
Yes, absolutely. And there's legislation that's been proposed, you're probably familiar with, that's been introduced in several Congresses to actually release the Postal Service from that benefit, the obligation to keep that benefit in an overfunded situation. Like you said, their fund is overly funded. We don't have many pension plans that are in a situation like that. So I think it's about retirement security. It's about doing it smartly. And the union movement, again, wants to be part of the solution and really, keep retirement security for all Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. And well said. What can Americans do who are watching this program or listening to this program right now to help advance the cause of the middle class, which in a very large way is the cause of organized labor? What can in the minute we have left here, Liz Schuler, the Secretary Treasurer of the AFL CIO, what can Americans do? What should people do?
Well, first of all, I think being educated on the issues, as we've talked about, and I'm sure your listeners know, the hot button issues that the Obama administration's been talking about all week. Educate yourself on the issues so that you're enabled to talk about the differences between these candidates with your friends, family, and community, and then really getting out to vote. And that's where working families can really show their muscle, because as you know, the money that's flowing into this campaign season, it has been insane due to Citizens United. And so really, how do we counterbalance that, right? It's with people power and boots on the ground.
There you go. Liz Schuler, Secretary Treasurer of the AFL CIO, aflcio.org. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Tom.
You are a great spokesperson for working people in America.
Not as good as you.
Well, we're doing it together here, Liz. Thanks
you.
a lot.
Appreciate it.
16 minutes past the